Welcome to American Pulse and Paranormal on YouTube. We recommend putting on your headphones for the full immersive experience. My name is Steve Harper, and I've been an engineer in the mining industry for over 2 decades. This story isn't just a tale of terror. It's a recount of an experience that forever changed my perception of reality. It happened in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, a region known for its rich mining history and, as I would soon discover, its hidden terrors. Our team was tasked with exploring the feasibility of reopening the old Belmont mine, which had been shut down years ago following a series of catastrophic collapses. The company saw potential in the untapped resources deep within the earth, and despite the ominous history, we ventured into the mine. The initial descent was uneventful. The air grew colder, and the darkness felt almost tangible as we moved deeper. Our headlights barely penetrated the thick blackness, but we pressed on, driven by the promise of new opportunities. Then it happened. A tremor, stronger than any I've ever felt, shook the very ground beneath us. The ceiling began to collapse, and debris rained down. We scrambled for cover, but when the dust settled, we found ourselves trapped. The tunnels had caved in, sealing us in a tomb of rock and darkness. Panic set in quickly. Communication with the surface was cut off, and the realization that we were truly alone in the depths of the earth weighed heavily on us. We tried to stay calm, but the days passed without rescue, and our supplies dwindled. The oppressive darkness began to take its toll on our minds. We were trapped for 4 days, struggling with hunger and thirst. The little food and water we had was divided sparingly, but it was never enough. Our thoughts were consumed by our dire situation, and with each passing hour, our desperation grew. It wasn't long before we started seeing them, the apparitions. At first, they were fleeting shadows in our peripheral vision, but soon they became more tangible. One night, as we huddled together in fear, a ghostly figure, clad in old mining gear, appeared before us. Its eyes glowed with an eerie light, and its mouth opened in a silent scream. My rational mind wanted to dismiss it as a hallucination, but the terror in my colleagues' eyes told me they saw it too. The hauntings grew more frequent and more violent. Tools were flung across the tunnel, and our makeshift camp was disrupted by unseen forces. The apparitions seemed to delight in tormenting us, and the line between reality and nightmare blurred. Driven by a desperate need to understand, I delved deeper into the mine's history. Through scraps of old documents and whispered tales from the past, I uncovered a chilling truth. The Belmont mine had been the site of ritualistic sacrifices performed by its founders. They had invoked dark forces, binding malevolent spirits to the very rock itself. These spirits were now our tormentors. As we huddled together in the oppressive darkness, I began to notice changes in my colleagues. Their faces grew gaunt, eyes wide with fear, and whispers of paranoia filled the air. Each creak and groan of the mine was met with wide-eyed terror, as if the very walls were conspiring against us. One particularly harrowing night, as the temperature plummeted to bone-chilling levels, we encountered another apparition. This one was different, more menacing. It floated towards us, its eyes burning with an unholy fire. It reached out with ghostly hands, and an icy chill spread through the room. My colleague Mark screamed and bolted into the darkness. We tried to stop him, but fear had taken hold. The last we heard was his scream echoing through the tunnels before it was abruptly cut off. Mark's disappearance only deepened our despair. The mine seemed to come alive with malevolent intent, every shadow and whisper a reminder of our dire situation. I knew we had to find a way out, but the deeper we delved into the mine's history, the more horrifying it became. Through my research, I discovered that the founders of the Belmont Mine had been part of a secret cult. They believed that by performing dark rituals and sacrifices, they could harness the power of the earth to gain wealth and power. These rituals had bound malevolent spirits to the mine, turning it into a cursed place. Determined to break the curse, I sought out the hidden chamber mentioned in the ancient texts. It was said to be the epicenter of the malevolent force where the rituals had taken place. With the help of my remaining colleagues, we navigated the treacherous tunnels, guided by the eerie glow of our headlamps. The journey to the hidden chamber was fraught with danger. We encountered more apparitions, each more terrifying than the last. One night, as we rested in a small alcove, a poltergeist attack nearly claimed another of our team. Rocks and debris flew through the air, and an invisible force tried to drag Sarah, our geologist, into the darkness. We fought back with whatever we had, our fear fueling our determination to survive. When we finally reached the hidden chamber, we were met with a sight that would haunt me forever. The walls were covered in cryptic symbols, glowing with a sinister energy. In the center of the room stood an altar, stained with the blood of past sacrifices. The air was thick with malevolence, and the temperature dropped to an unbearable cold. As we stood in the chamber, the spirits of the mine's victims began to materialize around us. Their eyes were filled with sorrow and anger, their forms twisted by the agony they had endured. I knew we had to act quickly. I retrieved the ancient incantation I had found among the documents and began to chant. The chamber pulsed with energy as the malevolent force coalesced before us. It was a swirling vortex of darkness, tendrils of shadow lashing out with fury. My colleagues held their ground, their faces set with determination. I continued the incantation, my voice growing stronger with each word. With a final defiant cry, I unleashed the power of the incantation. The malevolent force shrieked in rage as it was banished back to the abyss from whence it came. The spirits of the mine's victims began to fade, their tormented souls finally finding peace. The mine fell silent, its dark secrets buried once more. We thought our ordeal was over, but as we made our way back to the surface, a final tremor shook the mine. The ground beneath us gave way, and we were plunged into a deeper, hidden section of the mine. The fall knocked us unconscious, and when I came to, I found myself in complete darkness, separated from my remaining colleagues. I felt a hand on my shoulder and turned to see Sarah, her face pale and eyes wide with terror. "Steve, look," she whispered, pointing to a distant glow. We cautiously made our way towards it, the light revealing a cavernous chamber larger than anything we'd seen before. In its center stood an enormous ancient stone monolith covered in the same cryptic symbols we had seen earlier. As we approached the monolith, it pulsed with a sinister energy, and I could feel its malevolent presence. The air grew colder, and a sense of dread washed over us. Sarah and I knew that this was the true heart of the mine's darkness, the source of the malevolent force that had tormented us. In a moment of clarity, I realized that we had to destroy the monolith to break the curse once and for all. Sarah and I searched for a way to do so, eventually finding a cache of old dynamite stored in a nearby alcove. We carefully rigged the explosives around the monolith, our hands shaking with fear and determination. As we lit the fuse, the chamber began to tremble, and the malevolent force surged with fury. The apparitions reappeared, their eyes burning with anger as they tried to stop us. We fought back, using whatever we could find to hold them off. The ground shook violently, and the air was filled with the deafening roar of the dynamite. In the final moments before the explosion, I grabbed Sarah's hand and we ran for cover. The blast was overwhelming, a blinding light in a deafening roar that shook the very core of the mine. When the dust settled, we found ourselves in a cavern that had partially collapsed, the monolith reduced to rubble. The malevolent force was gone, and the oppressive darkness lifted. The spirits of the mine's victims had finally found peace, their forms fading into the ether. Sarah and I made our way back to the surface, exhausted and battered, but alive. As we emerged from the depths, we were forever changed by our ordeal. The Belmont mine was sealed, its horrors locked away, but the memory of that harrowing journey remained, a reminder that even in the darkest of places, there is light and hope.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe to American Pulse and Paranormal and turn on the notification bell to be the first to know about our upcoming stories. We are grateful for your support and wish you a safe and peaceful night.